God puts us in nations, in places, not by mistake, but to do a job. What if we opened our eyes to the needs of our colleagues, of our leaders, of our subordinates, and we were a priest on their behalf?
My name is Brett Johnson.
I'm Lynn Johnson.
And we'd like to welcome you to the Repurposing Business podcast that will be coming to you each week.
Welcome to Season 6, How to Work Like God in 31 Ways.
Welcome to the Repurposing Business podcast. We are on day 3 of Work Like God in 31 Ways. I'm going to share with you from John chapter 5. Listen to these verses. But Jesus answered them, "My Father has worked even until now. He has never ceased working. He is still working, and I too must be at His divine work." Now often we hear in Christian circles, it's not what you do, it's who you are. Well, not so fast. God is characterized by His work. He's characterized by many things. But Jesus says, because my Father is at work, I need to keep working. And then He goes on to make this statement in chapter 5, verse 19 of the book of John. So Jesus answered them by saying, "I assure you, most solemnly I tell you, the Son is able to do nothing from Himself," which is a great principle. "But He is able to do only what He sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does is what the Son does in the same way." So as we look at principle number 3, we're looking at this principle of faith and order, or order and faith. I was in South Africa. We had just finished a repurposing business consultation. We had 10 companies together in a room for 10 days. We brought in 10 overseas consultants, 10 visiting consultants, and they sat with these businesses. And as is customary, on the last day, the leaders of the company stood up and they shared what they'd learned, the fresh purpose they got for their business, what they were going to do, how we could pray for them. Our consultants had put together a 10-piece scorecard for them. And this was in the day before we gave the clients a rough guideline, a template of how they could structure their final presentation. Generally it went well, but this time somebody got up and they made their presentation. They said, "I don't have a formal presentation," but went to the flip chart and started drawing the most random collection of things. Oh, over here's an orphanage, and over here's this, and over that, and this connects to that. It was completely disorderly. I was not a happy camper. On the plane back to the US, I was reading in my Bible, Colossians 2, verse 5. And this is what it says. Paul says, "I delight to hear or to see how orderly you are and how firm your faith is." And so principle number 3 is get your stuff in order if you're going to work like God. It's not a question of faith or order. I see a bunch of people who say, "Yeah, I'm not that organized, but I'm just being led by the Spirit." I remember the embarrassing situation where somebody went on to American Idol and they asked her, "What are you going to sing?" She had done no preparation and she proceeded to say, "Oh, I'm just going to sing whatever the Spirit tells me to sing." And out of her mouth came what? It wasn't fantastic. It was an embarrassment. And we do that in the business world and in life in general. And if we're to work like God, we have to be a combination of order and faith. In fact, God's work is a perfect fusion of order and faith. Now, in 1 Timothy 1 verse 4, I've shared in the book over here, which you are familiar with. He says, "I'm delighted to hear of the careful and orderly ways you conduct your affairs, and impressed with the solid substance of your faith in Christ." This is from the Message, 1 Timothy 1 verse 4. "I'm delighted to hear of the careful and orderly ways you conduct your affairs, and impressed with the solid substance of your faith in Jesus Christ." It's not a trade-off of order or faith. It's a combination of faith and order and faith. What we tend to do is some people just want to have order. As it says in the book of Corinthians, talking about the gifts of the Spirit, it says all things should be done decently and in order. And if you're from a more traditional mainline religious tradition, you would say all things should be decent and in order. And if you might be from a charismatic or Pentecostal tradition, you should say all things should be done. Well, it's all things should be done. What was he talking about? Tongues, prophecy, healing, all of that kind of stuff, all of the power gifts of the Spirit. All things should be done decently and in order. It's a combination of the two. And so we shouldn't throw our Presbyterian brain, if you like, out of a Pentecostal window. We have to figure out how we combine these two things. So get your stuff in order, work like God, work with order.